Hello, it's Jack Tutor here of Attention Magazine. Welcome to Crucial Listening, the podcast where I speak with musicians and sound artists about 3 albums that are important to them. My guest this time is Joseph Kmru, a sound artist from Nairobi, Kenya. His new album Peel just came out on Editions Mago. It's beautiful. The pieces on the record unfold slowly over time. Joseph is very interested in repetition and its effect on the listening experience. And that manifests in these pieces that feel quite static initially, and then you start to notice all these changes happening, these new field recordings coming in, these new textures starting to sidle in over the top or from the side. And it's hard to tell whether or not that's being instigated by the listener, because the static soundscape kind of instigates these changes, these recalibrations in the listening experience, or whether Joseph is introducing these new textures. And it's an album that unfolds with each listen as well. You seem to feel like you're getting deeper and deeper into these pieces as you go. Joseph also self-releases on Bandcamp, kmru.bandcamp.com. There's lots of wonderful material on there. He's also involved in an archiving and reissuing project of his grandfather's music, his namesake, Joseph Kmru, who was a big figure in the Benga music scene. And he's also involved in Black Bandcamp, which is a crowdsourced database of black musicians and producers, blackbandcamp.info. Timely, because we're about to hit another Bandcamp Friday next week as I'm recording this. So definitely check that out. I had a great time speaking with Joseph, both about Peel and getting some insight into the process there, but also about his important records. Joseph actually picked 4, which is absolutely fine. It's always hard to whittle down that list to 3. So you can go to attentionmagazine.co.uk/crucial listening for more information on Joseph's picks and links to his music as well. Cool. Hope you enjoy the conversation. This is Joseph Kmru on Crucial Listening. Hello, Joseph. Welcome to Crucial Listening.
Thank you for inviting me.
So you've selected 3 important records and an honourable mention as well for us to talk about. But before we get stuck into those, I wanted to ask a few questions on your album Peel, which just recently came out on Editions Mago. I mean, first question relates to the duration in which you recorded it. So I understand that it came together within 48 hours. Is that typical of how quickly you tend to work?
Not really, but different projects have like different timelines or like lengths. For example, this week I've been working on a single track since Sunday, and it's been pressuring me so much, but there's a deadline. For Peel was I remember I was experimenting. As soon as I came back, I was messing around with field recordings and drones, and I made the first track with one like sort of tool for Max I used for like the whole process creating it, like a Max device and other plugins. Then in my mind I thought this would be a project on its own. And it was interesting because it was only one take for, I think, the recording of like the second track of the album. And in my mind was like, let me make more tracks in this direction. And that's how Peel came about, because I remember the whole day I was just tweaking my knobs like from like start to like finish, and it's all evolving. Then when I have something finished or like length, for example in Peel, like the last track of the album, it was one of the difficult tracks to make because I was making mistakes and I had to start all over again. And it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you listen to that track, I think I don't know what minute, there's a drop down, like a 1 dB down. Then I was like, I'm not doing this again. I'll just put it as it is. And I think nobody else has had that unless I mentioned it to somebody and they listen again, they'll realize there's a dB down. Yeah. But the whole process was, the whole recording, arranging was done in 48 hours in 2 days.
Wow.
And there were like how many tracks? I think 12 or 11. And these are the ones which stood out. But like the whole layering and adding more field recordings to the track, which took longer, but everything was finished within 48 hours or even more maybe. But like I was happy with the record the following day, listening back to the tracks. And it's interesting because some of the tracks are only one take.
Wow.
And so I'm happy how it turned out because the project was actually, I uploaded it on my on my SoundCloud as private, and I was thinking maybe I'm going to develop more and add more stuff and layer it and hopefully make it more denser. But I did send the project to Aho actually, and I was asking him, should I continue working on the project or just for feedback? Then he really loved it, and because I was not sure if it sounds finished, but then that's how it came about. I can't even remember your question, sorry.
That's so interesting. I want to come back to that point you made about midway through Peel, the 1 dB drop, because I think one thing that has struck me about listening to this record is the repetition that takes place. I think plays tricks with how you perceive the sound anyway. I guess there's, and I'm not an acoustician, I'm not an expert on any of this, but there are certain aspects to how your brain interacts with the sound that I'm sure it's doing its own crossfading as well and dropping things to the back as they become familiar and bringing certain things forward. I mean, I certainly find myself questioning whether new elements have entered the mix or whether or not I'm just suddenly starting to hear them because of how I'm recalibrating to what I'm hearing. I mean, I understand that the record came partly from your own studies into repetition and time in sounds. Could you tell me a bit about that and how it relates to Peel?
Before Peel, I remember I was doing the Max for Live course on cadence, I think late last year, and I came across this another course called like repetition in music, and it's something that I realized in, for example, music by William Basinski, and I was interested to like experiment or try out stuff. And how I go about this project or trying to learn something, I usually transcribe, not like notation, but listening to the like a specific track, then trying to recreate it as it is to the best. And I did this for, I think, early in 2017 for an artist called Atlas. And also I've done the Apex Twin piano Anastasia something. And I realized when I'm listening back to, for example, very small sections of a piece, you hear new sounds after looping like 16 bars or like 4 bars every time, trying to like create it inside your Ableton. These new sounds that are coming out from like listening. And it's the same also with speech. When I say my name, like Kmru, it's like I'm saying Maraku, Kmru. Kmru. I don't know when halfway my word is like the other way. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
yeah.
So I tried that with sound, and for sound it's interesting trying to stay as fluid as possible and organic. And I just realized I don't also, for most of my projects, I don't use the metronome or like tempo. So for example, for Peel, I'd given my friend initially, before the project was finished, like during when the project was on SoundCloud, to listen, and he wanted to remix the track, and he asked me for the metronome BPM, and was like, there's no BPM for this song. You just have to figure it out. And that's how I've been going on, like for most of my projects, where when I open a project file, it's gridless. There's no grids. I removed like grids from Ableton, and just sort of working freely and seeing what can happen in time and space.
And is there something about the grid that inhibits that for you, or what is it about the grid that I don't know, maybe gets in the way and makes you want to get rid of it?
It doesn't get on my way. For example, composing textures or drones or field recordings. If I'm thinking of something to write and I don't have any particular BPM, because it's not dance music. For dance music, when I'm experimenting with beats or drums, I have to use the grid or sometimes break it. But like for my projects, I just use the gear and start recording and improvising and layering. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask as well about field recordings that you incorporate into Peel. There's one in particular on the first track, Why You Here, where it sounds like a horn of some sort, and it kind of comes near the beginning. I think it kind of leaves again. It maybe comes back. I can't quite recall. Do you know the sound that I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can divulge your secrets, but what is it that's making that sound?
I have a collection of broken instrument sounds. And when I wrote Why Are You Here, there's a point I remember these sounds of like the broken brass sounds and of woodwinds and winds, or like broken, different orchestral broken sounds, and I decided to layer it, but it's very low, or you can't really hear it, but it's there. Because
it's quite a brash sound. I know with usual associations with music that's as fluid as you say as this, those kind of sounds don't always emerge that often, but for if you're really listening to it, it really does jut out for that moment that it's there, which I really like. Well, one more question on Peel I had as well was, as you say, you composed it quickly, and it sounded like you weren't immediately sure whether or not it was done. Obviously now it's definitely done because it's out.
With mistakes.
How do you feel about the record now? Like, has your relationship with it changed now that it's out in the world and it's definitely finished?
From the process of creating it, and how, because I remember when I was making it, I was asking my younger brother to listen to it, and I was going on breaks because my hand was paining just tweaking one knob for a very long time. And it was I really connected the whole process, even though it was very fast, or like quite fast, and I didn't expect like a huge response from people or like so much love from the album. And I'm so happy that I'm listening back to like the record again, and yeah, even for me, when I'm listening back, there's something new.
Wow.
I'm hearing. Yeah.
That's great. Well, people should definitely check it out. So that's out on Editions Migo now. Joseph, as well, where's the best place for people to keep up to speed with what you're doing? Would that be on Bandcamp?
Yeah, on Bandcamp, and I just finished making my website during this pandemic period. Kmru.info. Yeah.
Great. Well, like I say, you've got some important records that you've brought to the table. One question I like to ask before we dive into talking about the record specifically is how you thought about the term important when picking this list. So was there a way that you understood that word to come up with the list of albums that you've got here?
For me, the selection of the records I chose were the records which have played, like have contributed into my musical like experience, or what can I say, musical like new music for me that I didn't hear before, and I was really intrigued and excited to listen to these records. And also contributed much from my whole musical journey, which I'm still in, writing electronic music and sounds. Yeah.
Great. Well, let's dive into the first one. I'll let you pick whichever one you want to talk about, if you give me the name of it and then a little bit about why it's important to you as well.
Maybe you can start with Anna Roxanne's album. With the signs.
Yes. Yeah. The three tildes.
Yeah.
Why is this one important to you?
This one is important because of how Anna used field recordings and her voice, and there's also the sense of timelessness in this record, which it was actually the first record I bought off Bandcamp last year, and I was so connected with the whole composition of how the record came out to be, and the fact that it was released also in 2015 and later released on Living Records last year. And actually it was one of my favorite ambient albums for last year. Yeah.
I want to pick up on you mentioning that it feels timeless, because in my initial acquaintance with this record, that's the impression that I'm getting for several different reasons. I guess there's several different means by which you could perceive timelessness within this particular record. But what do you mean when you say that this record is timeless?
There's no connection to time and the space in the record, where how Anna is creating like the soundscapes of the environments, and also her voice, and also adding, for example, there's a track I think it's A Rainy Day, Cosmic Show. There is a synth like wavy, and for me it felt like it's maybe in the future. This record, like this track was made in the future, and it's here for us to listen to it. Yeah.
That's so nice. I mean, it's definitely I get that futuristic impression when I listen to this, but also there's the fact, I guess, that it was made using a vintage Moog synthesizer as well, right? So you've got and also something about it with the, I guess, arpeggiations or whatever you'd call them, that feels as well quite reminiscent of sort of an earlier era of electronic music as well. But yeah, that's certainly one understanding of timelessness that I felt when I was listening to this. Do you remember how you came to discover this record? Like, how did you come across it?
Last year, when I was thinking for my master's program, I wanted also to apply to Mills College, which is in California Bay Area, and that's when I came Anna's name as she was studying there. Then it all connected when she released the album, I think in June last year, and I was excited to hear this work. I also like reached out to her and chatted about this, how the record inspired me, because I wanted to like write something not similar, but as from the inspiration from the record. And yeah, that's how I just came across the record. Yeah, but I'd been following the label, but I came across her name from my idea to study in Mills. Yeah.
Was there anything specific about the sound of this record that you wanted to experiment with your own music?
It's a very simple yet powerful record, ambient record, and how for me, musicians or people who use their voices as instruments are usually very inspiring of how they do it. Because I used to sing but I stopped, and how Anna balanced everything on this record was really inspiring. And also, even if you remove the voice from this record, I think you'll still feel the whole waviness of the record.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of connection with water from this record. I think I realized that because she's using sounds from like the sea, and yeah, for me it's just a really emotional or sensual record, electronic ambient record from Anna. Yeah.
It's so pertinent that you've just said that it's like water, because I'd written here that there are elements of this record that feel on a superficial level, like on first glance they feel quite still, but then when you really examine them, they're moving a lot and they're churning and they're changing, and there's a lot of pulsations going on, which is precisely like water, right? I live right by the sea, and you can look out on this thing and it looks like just a big block of blue, but upon closer inspection there's all these movements going on, which feels very resonant within Anna's record here. There's all these micro movements happening.
Yeah.
And it's a short release as well. I mean, it's what is it, like 20 minutes? It certainly passes quickly when I've been listening to it. Do you think brevity plays any part in your connection to it?
I'm not sure. Yeah, but I've listened to this record so many times, and like for example this week today I was listening to it while driving and hearing I think the last track where there's this child speaking, and there's a very selfless field recording where it feels so natural, and how the field recordings, the chimes, and Anna's voice coming in like blended all well together. Yeah,
that's a lovely piece. It sounds like there's like a family gathering going on or something.
Yeah.
You mentioned as well about the fact that you used to sing and then stopped. I mean, has there ever been any desire to incorporate the voice within what you're doing currently?
I have, but it's not audible where I use my recorder and process my voice. Yeah. Or like sounds which the voice can do. Yeah. And I also have this instrument by Soma Labs, the pipe.
Right.
Yeah. And it's more like a beatbox, an electronic beatbox machine. I've never used it for my voice, but I just pass my synth through it. But yeah, you can do so much with the voice, the breath, yeah, with it. And I'm happy how microphones, like different microphones, you can be very experimental with microphones with your voice or like sounds from your body. Yeah.
Let's go to your second record now, Joseph. If you give me the name of it and then a little bit about why it's important to you as well.
Chris Watson's Elton Fantasma, like the Ghost Train record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is this one important to you?
Yeah, this one is, I think, very important because I remember I came across this record in maybe 2015, and it was 4 years down the line its release. And it was the same time where I was in a residency at Train. It was a train journey residency where it was from Nairobi, where we traveled from Nairobi to down in the coast in Kenya, a place called Kilifi. And it was 14 hours like journey on the train. Back then I never produced, or I never produced what I'm currently doing, but I was recording the train sounds, not very intentional, but I was amused by the chugging and the whole, because it was the old train, the smoke train, yeah, and it was super hot and it's 14 hours and we have to create stuff with other artists, musicians and visual artists. It was an interesting trip, and during this time I didn't have a field recorder. I just had my iPod, and on the iPod I used my earphones and hung my earphones outside the window of the wagon so that I can record like the train sounds and the ambience outside. And yeah, I managed to like clear some of the nice sounds and just listen back to them during the journey, because this was my project, because I was thinking, what am I going to do? And people are very active, people on their guitars making new songs, because we had, by the end of the journey, it was called East African Soul Train Residency. We had to showcase what we've created during the journey at where we were staying. And yeah, I managed to. I met a passenger who was not part of the residency, and he was called Leon. He's called Leon. I didn't know he was a producer, but he was interested with what I was doing, and yeah, we became friends. And I told him I was recording sounds in the train, and I'm thinking of making a track, maybe. Yeah. Then he told me he produces. So I was like, okay, let's do this together.
And that's how part of the residency. That's so good.
Yeah. And just a random passenger. Super cool, and he's one of my favorite friends now, producer friends in Nairobi, and we make totally different sounds, but yeah, he's the go-to guy. I really enjoy sharing projects with him and making stuff with him. Cool. So we made this project called East, and it's on my Bandcamp. It's one of my first collaborations with him. And after the residency, or maybe before, I'd come across, wait, is it after? I think it's after I'd come across now Chris Watson's record. I had the track El Dificidero, I think that's the most standing out track from the album. How technical the album is in a very nice way, with the field recordings. It's like a book or a picture of sounds, and they're very well described. And I was so happy. I was very happy to come across this record, because back then I didn't know that people like would just listen to this kind of music as it is. And yeah, because even my East project had drums, and Leon added his old layers, but I was also interested in the sounds of the ambience, or like the natural surrounding throughout the journey of the train. And coming across Chris's record, I was really excited that there's something like this out there. And I bought like my Zoom H6, which I have right now. And the first time I remember listening to like my natural surrounding, I was wow. I was so wow that I was missing on so much sounds. Yeah, so I just started collecting and just going out in the field, listening to different sounds, not even recording, just listening what's happening here. It was good old days where I wake up in the morning and just carry my recorder and walk all the way to nowhere, but come back happy with inspired sounds. And later, I started using the sounds more in like the technical side of production as compositional tools, and using field recordings as basis of my production, and yeah, seeing what will happen. Yeah.
It sounds like, is it a case that discovering this record was licensed to be like, oh, it's enough just to have the field recordings and not give it a more overtly musical package? Like you can just enjoy those sounds as they are in the same context of music. Is that what this record sort of introduced you to?
Yeah, for sure. It's more of like our surroundings have their own stories to say, and when I'm out in the field and I hit record, that's already a composition. If it's 4 minutes or 6 minutes or even 20, that's the piece itself, and that's what maybe the garden outside has to say, or like dogs. Yeah.
And when you go out and do field recording at the moment, what is it that, and this could be a very difficult thing to define, but what is it that stimulates you to press record? Is it hearing something in particular? Are you pressing record the moment you leave the front door? Like, what informs that decision to press that button?
Lately, it's been very intentional when I'm out in the field. I haven't really been out lately for a field recording, but sometimes when I'm in the field, I hit record and just wait to be excited or like surprised by what the environment has to say. Other times I'll be at a location before and like survey it or know what sounds I can get from this space. I do that mostly in the house, where I've really captured most of what's in our home, where the kitchen has the best sounds, but also like different rooms. For example, like lately I've been doing electromagnetic recordings, and the chandelier has the best sounds.
Wow. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, like sometimes it's just in the house roaming and seeing what will surprise me. Other times I enjoy doing this where I drive. It's sort of like mapping the locations where I've recorded, but outside my home. So I drive to a location. I just check on Google Maps and drive maybe 2 or 3 hours away from home and stop somewhere, then record the sounds from there. Then the next time I'll reach there, record the place again, and continue driving further. So sort of mapping this road or something. Yeah. these ones are usually the best. Yeah.
I mean, that's not too dissimilar to what's implied by the track list of El Tren Fantasma. It feels like it's a mapping of a route, right? I mean, it seems like each of the tracks is sort of named after different stops on that route. So, yeah, that's really cool. You mentioned El Divisadero in particular.
Yeah.
Why does that one jump out for you?
I think it's how brilliant the depth of the sounds used to, like, for this particular track. Everything like fits well together. The chain, the horn of the screech and the horn of the chain. And there's this one time where I was listening to the track, I can't remember what year, and I'd opened like 2 instances of the track on YouTube, and it sounded amazing. Yeah, I just tried. Yeah. No. I don't know how, but I enjoy. I usually even do this for my mixes, where if I'm making a mix on Ableton and I have a track playing, I'll open a different track in the background and hear how both of them, it's like one track. And when I did this for this particular track, El Divisadero, yeah. I was what can I say? I'll try it again maybe after this call and hear. I don't know, but it depends on also like the start and the finish. And it's something that also music that you can just start playing it from any minute and sounds like the start. I think most music, for example, field recordings, like you can play them from anywhere, because that's the start or like the finish, or and I feel for this track, when I played both of the tracks together, I was impressed and amused how they fit well together. And it was 2 of them.
Yeah, I love that point that you can start it at any point, because I suppose particularly in the pieces that feel like more unbroken, unedited field recordings, the recording is a slice of something bigger anyway. Right. So there is no stop and start. That's, it would be almost anthropocentric to be like, this is where this landscape begins and ends, right? Because I guess with field recording, there's occasionally the association with some form of neutrality, like it's just presenting the landscape as is. I think what really strikes me about El Tren Fantasma is that there seems to be a lot being said by what is being included on the record and what happens during what is included. I think the fact that there are recordings of nature and people, and occasionally they get utterly swamped by the sound of the train coming in, and whether that's an act of editing or whether that was on the recording itself, I don't know, but there clearly seems to be something being remarked on there about the presence that this train has within the landscape, and how it basically just clears a path for itself, in soundscape terms. Do you have any thoughts on that within, say, your own field recording or field recording generally, about, well, I don't know, what is being said by those field recordings, and what they're communicating?
Sound is very political on its own, and for different works it can be just as documenting. And I've seen that this is how most people approach field recording, where they are just documenting a different location or different environments. But for this one, there is the intention of the train, also from the artwork and like the different tracks. For example, I think the track Los Moches or something.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear the train coming to you, and
Yeah.
there's the intro with the field recordings, not of the train. I think birds and children and the chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you can hear the train. Maybe there's something major behind this. I don't know. But for me, I approach it very freely, but it depends also with the location where I'm recording or doing a project for. Yeah.
Let's go to your third important record here, Joseph. Again, if you could give me the name of it and a bit about why it's important to you.
I have two. Maybe I'll go with the rival consoles one persona.
Nice. I'll tell you what, we'll give the other one a brief mention as well after rival consoles.
Oh, this one is important because of its analog like sounds and how Ryan uses rhythm, and it's also, I realized most of his music when I was listening, because this was the kind of direction I want to take when I'm making sort of not dance music but music with kick drums. And yeah, the record was important, and I remember first listening to, I think, Be Kind from the record, and later he did like a Reddit AMA, and I was asking him on the chat about the track, and it's sort of an ambient track, not really ambient but freeform, improvised, and most of his works and records feel very free and improvised also, even including the drums and everything. And yeah, so later on the chart he mentioned that Be Kind was fully improvised on the Minilogue, and yeah,
wow,
had me buying a Minilogue. Yeah. Although it was like something I was planning to do before realizing that the project or he uses, because I was following him way before. Yeah.
But that gave you the push to finally do it.
Yeah. But I'm really grateful, because if I want like very beautiful sounds, improvised sounds, I could just go to the Minilogue, and I do this where if I'm not making music, I just jam and hit record and play and store them in a folder. And this is also one take. And they're more of sketches. And if I'm making something new, I go to the folder and listen back. And there's this one time I came across one sketch, a track which I released called Points. And yeah, it was a one-take improvisation from the Minilogue. And it's only one take and just a reverb and few delays.
I mean, it sounds like you're quite comfortable with doing just one take and then leaving it. But is there any discipline involved in saying, that's done, I'm not going to add anything, I'm not going to layer this up? Like, is it easy for you to just go, no, I'm finished with that, one take is fine?
Maybe it's something because when I'm working on projects, for example, projects which take long, maybe months, I usually when I feel it's finished, I don't usually want to go back to the project and change stuff. And that's how I came like to this idea of just recording things, maybe one take and hear how they sound. But yeah, it depends, because sometimes I do it and I don't like it, then you have to do it again. But you have to you just have to improvise. It's like performing live, where you don't know what's gonna happen and you just let it be and see how it'll turn out. Yeah,
I mean, we should say, I'm not sure if I mentioned, but the Rival Consoles record in question is Persona, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember how you first came into this record?
I was following the label. What's the name of the label?
Is it Erased Tapes?
Yeah. Erased Tapes. Thank you. So I've been following artists from Erased Tapes because there's this blissful electronic music from the record label, and I was listening to one of Kmru's band member, who is also a pianist from Iceland, from the label, and I was now listening to different artists from the record label, and I came across Rival Consoles. I think Johannesburg record. I don't know if it's called Johannesburg. Yeah, and back then I was also trying to make dance music, and this I think maybe in 2015 is when I came 2014-15 is when I came across Rival Consoles works, and it's been really inspiring what he's creating. And for example, his last record and the previous one have been really motivating, where when I'm making any kind of music or experimenting or improvising, and the fact that most of his music is improvised also, for me it's just that inspiration from different artists who make amazing works and trying to learn from them. Yeah,
that's amazing that a lot of it is improvised, because I had no idea about that, and it doesn't sound like the sort of music which derives from improvisations. Like, it sounds so meticulous. There's and I guess that's because the way in which he's then built upon those improvisations is incredibly deliberate and structured. But I love the fact that the kernel of the pieces is improv. That's amazing. I should say as well, the track, I think it's called Untravel. I'd not heard this record before, but that track Untravel is amazing. Like, Christ, I've listened to that track so many times since it appeared in your list.
Yeah, I think is it the one which starts with a looping? What do we call it?
It's like it's almost like basically just one melody the whole way through. No drums, sort of like a bubbling synthesizer that's driving it. I think there's a music video that came out for it as well that I saw. So I see that Rival Consoles has also released a new record as well, I think very recently. Have you checked that one out yet?
Yeah, I did, and I think the single released from the record, Articulation, was the one which struck me. I don't know if it's that one or can't remember which one, but also the fact that this record was like he sketched how the idea of the record will be visually before working on the music, and it's something I was doing when I was in school for compositions, where I'm sketching, but it wasn't very intentional, just an easy way or visual way to see the flow of music. Yeah, I also do enjoy this new record from him. Yeah.
But those sketches, I'm really intrigued at anyone who's playing with that sort of visual sonic crossover, what kind of sketches were you doing? Like, how were you portraying the flow of the music through visual means there?
It's more of using waveforms like in a linear way, where I have a straight line, and that's my timeline, and I draw different like waveforms on it, and for example accents and crescendos and downwards for just the mood, like the dynamics, mostly to the dynamics of the music. And for the instrumentation, I just write it. Maybe a synth can come in here, or drums layer with a synth, more noise, field recordings, yeah. But you can visually, but I'm not doing this currently, but it was when I was in school, because it was easier for me to do like compositions for projects in school that way.
So I'm intrigued because that kind of implies a flow where perhaps you perceive the music before you go to create it. Is there a general direction that takes place for you now? I mean, do you tend to have a vision for what you're going to do before you sit down to do it, or is it more a case of the other way around, or are you doing both?
It's the other way around, where I open Ableton and
see what happens.
But it depends, because I've been sort of buying different instruments and synths. For example, I have this mode pedal and my Minilogue, so I have a clear idea if I want to make a music of, for example, mode on my Bandcamp was just mode, the pedal itself, and Minilogue. That was like the first experiment with the pedal, and so something in that direction, like loopy, calm or soothing, maybe beautiful. Maybe I can use this, because I realized I don't know if the pedal has. I can't get minor sounds from the pedal. Everything sounds happy from this pedal. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's the same. If I'm working on a project, maybe more droney, like Sal from my record is like the lira and the devices I used for Peel, and lira is a very interesting instrument on its own, and lira 8 by Soma, and so there's no very like clear direction or intention. I want to make something that starts like this, goes like this. It's more of just messing around with my tools or like Ableton and seeing what can happen and change over time.
Wicked. And to return to this Rival Consoles record, do you have a favorite track? I mean, you cited Be Kind as one that spoke to you initially. Is that still your favorite? Are there any others that stand out?
The first track from the record.
Nice.
Unfolding.
With that kind of dugga like the...
I think that's the one I was confusing with Untravel. And it's interesting how some... I don't know if... When somebody is listening to a record and you can hear elements of how they made like different section, or like the drums. I think for this record, I'm not sure which track I recalled, like the sounds from maybe where he used them, or like particular synth. It's always a happy feeling knowing somebody is also doing this.
So that's so interesting, because I was going to ask you at that point, like, how that makes you feel when that happens, because I'm not an electronic musician, so there's no way that I'm going to know what synthesizer was used, and in my mind, that's keeps like a nice imaginative distance between me and the music, where it's like it can be released into these crazy visions, and I can have all this imaginative stuff going on, because I'm not going, oh, they're using that pedal or that instrument. But from your side as an electronic musician, actually you like that feeling by the sounds of it, right, when you hear someone doing something like that?
Well, it's more of like a compliment that they're also like using these tools, or this interests them. Yeah, less more, not samples, but sounds from, because I think musicians who are very critical, I'm not very critical, can be able to like capture or know like the types of the music, the types of like the scenes, or like whatever they're using to make their music on. But I think it's better to just like listen and enjoy the music. Yeah.
Let's touch on the last record as well you brought to the table. I know how hard it is to put together important records list, and when there's occasionally they just won't fit into 3, so I always take honorable mentions on the podcast. So tell me a bit about this fourth one.
This word is Chitomo by Idrissa Samoro, a Malian musician, a really known Malian musician. And I came across this record way earlier, maybe 2012 there, I can't remember. But I was happy, like back then I was playing the guitar and learning to play different riffs and trying out different rhythms on my guitar, and I really wanted to improve, and was playing along to most tracks, my grandfather's music or any different African artists, because I think the feel was quite different from the music I was like learning to play on my guitar. And this one was a bit difficult to learn, but I enjoyed the music. Although I did understand, I don't understand Mali or like the language itself, but the piece is very, like the whole record in itself is very, it's the kind of record where when I'm not like making music or just in the house, I play this kind of music just for like listening, because when I was listening back again to this record earlier today, I could hear like some elements or like rhythms and riffs which I understand from like the Kenyan different cultures, but this is Mali. And also the fact that in school I did a bachelor's in music technology, and we were studying like different musics from different parts of the continent, and Mali was one of my assignments for research. I think I did, and I might have come across the record from there. And then there was this time I was at a cinema and I Shazammed one of the songs, because I knew I remembered this song, but I couldn't remember from where. And one of the songs, Better, was synced on Black Panther.
Yeah. So is this a record that you still listen to regularly?
Yeah, I think it's on my Spotify because it's not on Bandcamp.
Yeah,
it's the one which is playing the most.
I mean, yeah, you mentioned he's a big deal in Mali. It sounds like he's got he's got a knighthood as well over there, and he's big in the world of music tuition as well. Yeah,
I don't know much about himself or what he's doing because I haven't been following. Because I think he after this record he released another one called Kote, and yeah, I don't know if he's released any new music yet. Yeah.
And again, do you have a favorite track on this record?
The fourth track from the record, Teriu. Yeah, I think that's the one which I enjoy listening. But also Better stands out after listening it to in the cinema and recalling that I've had this record before.
Joseph, this has been fabulous. Thank you so much for talking through both your own music and these important records. It's a very good time.
Yeah, thank you for the conversation. It was nice.
And if people want to check out, I should say again, your music, where's the best place for them to go online?
I put most of my music on Bandcamp, self-releases, and also finish my website, which I'm really updating almost every day. Kmru.info. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you once again, and to everyone listening, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.